graduated honors BA in sociology, a post that later was taken by Professor Muxe Gessler, kind of succession in the Department of Sociology. It was perhaps one of the most widely publicized graduation ceremony I've ever attended or heard about. There were 3 African students, and it was covered internationally. Ambassadors came from all over the country because it was historic. And our chancellor was Dr. Iceland, who was the architect of apartheid. The prime minister then was Dr. Verwoerd, who was the architect of apartheid. The rector was Professor Potgieter, who was an anthropologist, like Dr. Iceland, also an architect of apartheid. It was an incredible experience to be a student. There were only 84 of us, with 6 women. 6 women against 78 men. And you can imagine the kind of gender imbalances. The women had a very, very high value. One of the women that I can recall now, there are 2 women I recall very well now. The first one is now Dr. Margaret Monchana, who is now the Dean of Students at Wits. She's married to Dr. Norman Monchana. They are both at Wits now. She's the Dean of Students. You should interview her because she was the most wanted woman around. The second one I remember, she's now Mrs. Nteta, Mrs. Gloria Nteta. They are at Boston. They are in Boston now. The husband is now a professor of religious studies at the University of Massachusetts in Boston. So that was it was in those days, of course, at the University College of the North, at the dining hall, we had separate, seating. We came in, and women one side and men one side. And one of the, if not the first strike at the University of the North was led by me against separate seating. We just came one morning, mobilized, I was the president of the SRC, mobilized everybody, and we just crossed the floor. The late Professor Nsangwisi, the late Professor Hware, and the late Professor came from the Northwest, Professor Muloto, Ernest Muloto. They were the wardens. They came in and they couldn't understand why these students now are so disrespectful and so immoral as to sit at the same table with women. But that was it. That was it. It was the end of separate sitting. I don't want to go into details, but that was the first strike. The second strike, if you look at TEFLOB, the original buildings, they have built an attempt to give a tribal texture to the architecture of the place, to show that this is meant for, it was meant for North Sotos, really. It was meant for Beaters who were just there, for a while as they prepared to send us to University of Shanghai, University of Vendors. So the second strike was when we were expected to do manual labor. And the manual labor would take the form of brewing kefir beer in the lapas. They said, no, you know, you are African students, you should spend some time brewing kefir beer and in the lapas. That was the second strike. We just went haywire. So that was a build-up of and it started then. Teflop's radicalism started there, where because of the severity of the system, there was, I don't know why they were so hard on Teflop students, because of the severity of the domination, the racism. We became radicalized at a very, very early age. Right from 1960, 61, 62, we became radicalized in ways that people can understand now. A problem that we had, we were not allowed to have an SRC, by the way. We just organized ourselves in student committees. We were not allowed to have an SRC. Forte was going through a different process. Forte had SRCs for some time, you know, included people like Sobukwe, Mandela, or Tambo. They had SRCs up to that point. And they were going, their problem was doing away with the SRC, because the University of Forte was taken over by the Nationalist Party. It was no longer under Rhodes. It was taken over and forced to work within a Bantustan structure within the University of Africa. So they were saying that they didn't want an SRC because academic freedom, university autonomy, all these things were being infringed upon. We were moving in a different direction. We had never had an SRC. So we wanted an SRC desperately. So very, very interesting, developments there. And we fought very, very, very hard until, I think in 1961, we formed an SRC with Professor Mawasha. I remember very, very, very well. We were on the same SRC, myself, Professor Mawasha, Professor Manganyi, the late Michael Sono. I think I was the president of the SRC. Professor Manganyi was the minute secretary. Professor Mawasha was in charge of the Cultural Affairs Committee, I think. Yeah. And then I was the president of the SRC 61, 62, 63, 64. I left 65 when I was doing UED. So I was president of the SRC for about 4.5 years running, because I was such a bad guy. Yeah. And then another problem that we had at the University of the North then was recreational facilities. You are like you guys, you come there, there is a Standard Bank there, there is, the houses around you, decent houses around you. There is Mankweng. When we got there, there was no Mankweng there. It was just rock and bare land. And I remember one time, I went to the rector, Professor Potgieter, complaining about the lack of facilities. And I said to him, look, we have a problem as students here, particularly on Saturday afternoons, we have nothing to do. So students just wander about, with nothing to do. Would like to have a tuck shop. We used to have a tuck shop there. And the tuck shop also would like to sell beer or sell alcohol, because we need some entertainment, like real students elsewhere. Professor Putkala looked at me, he says, I don't mind, students walking up and down this place, provided you keep walking. Don't do anything else. You just keep walking. Don't try to. Very, very, very strange. And then we insisted on beer. We had a freshers' ball. This is a big event. Freshers' ball in 1961 was a big event. National champions of tango, of foxtrot and waltz, particularly from Natal. I mean, the best dancers came from Natal. A friend of mine, brilliant tango. And much later, Professor Maluleke joined in the tango tradition with his wife. But in 1961, we had a festival, but it's not what we see here. It was sophisticated stuff. I learned my first waltz when I was, those days we were even oriented, preparing for the bell ceremony. We went for 2 months being taught how to dance. And my partner, remember, I think she's married now, Yvonne Mutiang. She was my dance partner for that day. We went through the steps. I could only master waltz, nothing else. What I'm saying that the larger perspective is that the cultural traditions at the University of the North have changed. You no longer have the ballroom dancing. I know that. All that has gone by. And it might be interesting to find out exactly why these traditions have changed over the years at the University of the North. We also had one of the best soccer teams in the country. University of the North, one of the best soccer teams, and we used to, the University of Zululand, we used to beat them. There was no team. To Wentworth, it was West, the medical school. I mean, we were the best football team, playing against PAX, against Mukomeni, against, that's really, and with a very rich recreational culture at the University of the North, in spite of the apartheid problems. But who were the spectators most of the time? So, what is significant about this tuck shop, and perhaps that's where we started the tradition that culminated on my campus now with 30 cans of beer. But I fought so hard to introduce beer on campuses, and then Prof Muxe Gessler told him that, look, I don't mind you serving some liquor during a freshers' ball. What worries me is the amount of liquor you bring with you into the hall in your stomach. So those little tidbits, and then we began, obviously, to mobilize against a university without facilities. We began to mobilize against a university that was located in a dry, semi-arid, place. We began now to want to establish, a national student body that ultimately ended as SASO. Those days, we were members of NUSAS, and we used to attend the NUSAS conferences. The last NUSAS conference that I attended with Dr. Manganyi was at the University of Rhodes in 1962. Let me tell you about that.